Fine, I'm sure I'm
Hi
gonna
there, it's Trish McGirr here from Repossession Rescue Network, and I am here with the lovely Jim Jackson from Jackson Invest, and we're going to talk about all things property. And Jim is going to tell you about his business and how it fits in with what we're doing. Jim, thank you so much for coming on and doing this little interview with me.
No,
How
thank
are
you
you
for
doing
having me.
this morning?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, Trish. It's a
Good.
pleasure to talk to you. It's almost like talking to a celebrity.
Oh my God,
I've
no, don't say
seen you
that.
on the screen so many times, but yeah, it's great what you're doing. I love it.
And isn't it bloody weird when you've you kind of know people but you don't know them, and then you get to see them. I mean, I love to meet people in real life, but at some point I'll get more around the country and actually see all the people that we've had on board. So Jim, tell us a wee bit more about who you are. Tell us about Jackson Invest and what you're doing with your business.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just a family guy. I've got my beautiful wife Diana. I've got my equally beautiful daughter Molly, who's 14 and just growing up way too fast. And yeah, I mean, so I started off in construction. I started off as a carpenter and joiner, and sort of worked my way up the ranks and ended up in the drawing office, doing sort of manufacturing drawings. So I've got a construction background, which sort of put me in good stead for property, for doing refurbs and developments and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But my property journey started when I bought a property to live in back in sort of just before the credit crunch in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And I actually had one of the Northern Rock Together mortgages, which is the big one that sort of brought the economy down. And so as a result, I was fully leveraged. I had a 100% mortgage, and it went into negative equity. Now I was quite fortunate in that my job was secure and I was able to maintain the payments, but I was locked into a high interest rate at that time because obviously interest rates came down to try and, for the government were trying to help recover the economy. But I was stuck into this sort of 5.89% mortgage. But I sort of dug in there and, and it worked out right in the end. I mean, essentially, when I wanted to move a few years later, I couldn't afford to sell the place, so I became an accidental landlord.
Right.
So I rented my place out and then moved away. And that was my introduction to becoming a landlord and getting involved in property, albeit sort of accidentally.
Yeah.
It worked out all right in the end. In actual fact, it worked out really well.
Right.
It ended up being a really good cash generating, a cash flowing asset. And then also the capital appreciation really worked out well for it.
Yeah.
And that's what got me to thinking, well, if I can do it literally at the worst time, then what about if I educate myself? Maybe I can do something with this. So that's what I did. So I spent quite a bit of money on my education, and now I help others to also invest in property. So that's kind of what I do. I help people that might have worked hard and they've generated some wealth, but they're getting a little bit frustrated by the fact they're earning 0 nothing.
Yeah, the bank interest rate's rubbish at the minute.
Yeah, and then inflation is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if they're looking to put their money to work, get a bit of a better interest rate, then that's what I help them do.
Yeah.
But
so can I take you back to the negative equity situation? Because I was watching some posts the other day and some guys talking about 2010 2008. It's like a lifetime ago. Anybody who owned a property right there must be, and they use an illustration. His illustration was somebody who bought property at £250,000. In those days, the property is going to have at least doubled, if not more, tripled in value. And I went, well, hang on a wee minute. There's the first fallacy that even if you owned a £250,000 house in 2007, 2008, we have not doubled. And in actual fact, he meant quadrupled in value. He was like, it's going to go from 250,000 to 750,000, 3 times. It's kind of, we have not had 300% growth since 2007, 2008, because we've had lots of wobbles in the middle.
Yeah.
So because I'm interested in that, as you say, you created a solution out of the problem that you had.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I definitely felt like I was I felt like I was sort of forced into it, but I suppose some people don't even see that option, do they? You know.
Yeah.
And they could have ended. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could have, and a lot of people did at that time. I could have ended up in a much, if my job wasn't secure, if I didn't have that income coming in, I could have ended up in a complete mess. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate.
So there was a negative equity situation, which obviously. So first of all, as you say, it's like, what are my options? Oh my God, I can't sell, because if I sell, I mean, how big was the deficit? Whatever the deficit was, it's a bill. Then you have to find the money somehow.
Yeah,
and if your finances were stretched, I know yours weren't, then there's few options available to you, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. And because I was literally 100% leveraged, so I had a secure element of my mortgage, and then I had an unsecured element that was tied to that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have, there was no breathing space there. So and what the situation was is that if I had have remortgaged, I may have just been able to recover the secured part, but then the unsecured part the interest rate would have gone up to some ridiculous amount. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, I don't know, 12-13%. It would have been a ridiculous amount of interest. So I was
and that forces your finances into a worse situation than you were in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And how often do we, when we're talking about repossessions don't always happen because someone has been crap with their money. The marketplace can take people into position where their finances simply don't stretch any further. Yeah. And what's interesting to me from your scenario there, Jim, is the fact that the banks, they don't look at your situation and go, well, let's actually create a better interest rate for you. Mm-hmm. One thing you said there was you couldn't go somewhere else for a solution.
No, exactly. Yeah, I was trapped into it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your case, you weren't involved in property at that stage as a professional. You were a homeowner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as I say, I became an accidental landlord because I wanted to move for various reasons out of the area. And at that point, I still couldn't afford to sell the property without taking on a debt, with a large interest rate.
Yeah.
So I looked at my options and I applied to the mortgage company, which was NRAM, which basically took over Northern Rock to manage the mortgages. And I asked if I got consent to let, and then I let the property out. Unfortunately for me, as I say, as the market recovered, fortunately I bought in a pretty good place because it was in Grays in Essex, so it was near Lakeside, it's near London, it was a good commuter sort of location. Fortunately, it did end up recovering. It took a good number of years, and then and also the rental income that I was getting, I went on to interest only at the time, so I was I was getting a good return actually, so it worked out in the end, but it took a good number of years to get there. I wouldn't recommend that route at all. I had to kind of dig in there, but
but again, I'm really interested in exploring that. A couple of solutions that you brought to your own table are the solutions that we talk about now when we talk about repossessions. Number one, I mean, it's difficult to do this now, but you switched from a capital and interest repayment mortgage to interest only, and the mortgage company allowed you to do that. Now, that would be more problematic nowadays because most institutions won't allow you to do that, certainly not in the longer term. But that then preserved some cash flow, didn't it? It enabled you to create some more cash flow. And then, as you say, the second thing was that you got consent to let it out. Someone else. That solved part of your problem. What did you do when you did that? Did you go and find somewhere else to live? Did you rent somewhere else cheaper? Did you, what did you do?
So I moved I moved over to Chelmsford, just because that's where it's a long story. Basically, I'd split up with my the family broke up, so I then moved on. So we ended up renting somewhere out over there. So as I say, at that point, it wasn't that I was, I had a decent job, so I was earning a good income. My wife, then girlfriend was earning a good income as well. So that wasn't an issue. It was just that at the time, the property was still kind of in negative equity, or wouldn't have covered the 100%, the amount of debt that was outstanding on it. So that's why. So
you had all the problems that we see when we're talking about people who potentially could end up being repossessed. Number one, negative equity. Number two, lack of cash flow, even though you did a job that covered it, but and high interest rates and lack of other options for you to go and solve that problem. I mean, it really is a perfect storm for some people. In your case, you were able to ride the storm because you had the job to do it. But so many people, given those kind of 3 strikes and you're out almost, you know, they wouldn't be able to do what you were able to do for yourself.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very fortunate. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but now when I look back, I think, I could have ended up in a real mess, you know.
Yeah. So and either way, you could have ended up, which I did, where the house was negative equity and it was eventually sold, and you still have then a big debt to repay over the next 10 years or indeed sometimes longer, which feels like another mortgage, really, without the asset behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
So given everything that you've experienced, and as you say, it's worked out for you in the end, you became an accidental landlord, but now here you are, you're a professional in the industry, you know, you're in the industry, you've got that experience behind you as well. How are you using that today when you're working with, you know, with sellers?
Well, as you know, I mean, property, something I learned fairly early on is that property is not so much about property, it's actually solving people's problems, a people thing, you know. So when you're when you come across sellers, like essentially, like you most people who want to sell houses would, you know, all they know of is the traditional estate agent route, but in some cases that's not necessarily the best option for them, because they might want, you know, as I say, they might be in financial difficulty. They might need to, let's just say something that you know a lot about. I know you do other courses on this as well, but like an assisted sale type thing, where perhaps that person might need a certain amount to cover their mortgage or some other loans that they've perhaps secured against their property. So that's where I can come in and help them out, because they might be, although they might need that certain amount, the property might not be in a good state to achieve that amount, you know. So they're trying to achieve full market value, or they're asking full market value, but people are going in there and have a look at it, and, you know, it needs a new bathroom, it needs a new kitchen, it needs a good refurb. So they can't achieve that level of value. So that's where perhaps I can come in, I can help them out, and you know, we can help get their house into a good state to be able to sell it, and then, you know, cover they can get what they need. You know, it's working with them, finding out what they need, and then helping them out of that situation. Just as an example, that's one way that we can help, you know. But it's as you say, it's a lot about understanding the seller's needs and what they're you know, what situation they're in. Really. And then trying to provide, that's the first and foremost, do that if you can figure out what they need, and then you can figure out if you can help them. You know,
and bringing that life experience with you, Jim, as you say, it's a slightly different perspective, isn't it? Because you're not just seeing it as a property person, you are able genuinely to empathize with someone who potentially is in that situation. Again, one of the things that I see is, you know, these guys saying that there's nobody in negative equity right now. Well, if you've used your asset, if you've used your property as a bit of a cash cow, which some people have done, that every time they've had a bit of equity, they've gone to the bank, they've gone and borrowed a little bit extra, put a kitchen on, or have done whatever. So some people they don't have a huge equity position, even if they're repaying the loan. So I think it's a fallacy when guys out there are saying, oh, there's no one in this situation right now, because the reality is most people, or many people, are still thinking, not quite sure how I'm going to solve my problem. So in your case, Jim, you're also working with investors, aren't you? You're sourcing properties right now. So what do you think, you know, what is your position in terms of what you can do for investors then?
Well, so because in terms of investors, you know, they're looking for so I'm stumbling on my words here. So with an investor, my typical investor would be someone that wants to, you know, has a pot of wealth. They've built up some wealth, and they want to invest that wealth into something other than, you know, other than just a savings account that's earning them sort of next to nothing, really. So I then go out and source a property for them to take on, either usually as a buy to let, that sort of thing, and then they start earning a bit of a passive income from that. I offer a complete hands-free service, so it's go out sourcing the property. I'll manage the solicitors. I've got mortgage brokers as well that I've built up good relationships with, and I can rely on solicitors that I can rely on as well. And and then even if there are some refurb works, I can manage that. And it's as hands off as they want it. They can get involved as well. It's up to them. But generally speaking, the people that invest with me are they're busy people, so they want to invest in property, but they don't want they haven't got the time or maybe even the expertise to do it.
And given your experience, given that your personal experience as well as your professional experience, as you say, you've educated yourself. I guess you're able then to take a slightly different viewpoint. You're able to bring that knowledge to an investor who maybe doesn't have that. They have the cash, but they don't have the knowledge to
exactly. And it's all about. Sorry.
They could make all the mistakes that you would know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point of it. Is they could go out and do it themselves, but I've got past experience. I've spent a lot of time and money on education. I've got good people behind me that if I've got any sort of questions or any situations I haven't come across before, I've got them backing me up as well. So it's ensuring that they're putting their money in the right places, and ensuring that they're going to get a good rate of return, really, ensuring that they're making a good investment. And so that's solving that problem, which is great. And then, as I say, then there's the other side of it that is sourcing the properties, and we're then solving the sellers problem as well, which is great. So it's kind of like, as I said earlier, it is a problem solving thing.
Absolutely.
Both sides. I mean, one side you've got too much money and you want to invest it, which is a nice problem to have. On the other side, you've got someone that I do go to estate agents, but usually the best deals are when you're going direct to the seller, and the reason being is that you could have someone that getting value, because if you go to an estate agent, you might get a higher price, but you've got it's going to take months and months for the transaction to go through. You've got a 1 in 3 chance a chain will break, and then you're starting again. You're losing money through legals. For some people, if you want speed, for example, because maybe you're in a relationship and you've had a bad breakup, you just want to get rid of the place, you just want to be shot of it, then that's where I've got investors that have, in some cases, got cash. They can move quickly. There's very little chance that deal is going to break down.
And timing is everything, isn't it? It's not about. It's not always about how much money you end up making if you sell your house. Sometimes it simply is. It needs to happen. It needs to happen quickly.
Exactly.
We will sacrifice, if we want to call it that, some extra capital in order for us to be able to solve this problem today. We've all had that. It's like the early bird ticket thing. I'll pay a bit less to get in now, which is brilliant. But that's fine because it kind of works. So talking about Repossession Rescue, then, what was it specifically that made you want to be part of what we're doing right now?
Well, as I say, I love helping people. I mean, that's. I think. Do you know what? I think it's an innate thing in people. We do like to help people. I think most people like to help people. When you see people that seem to do, seem to help people, like they do these amazing like charity events and that sort of thing, or in all honesty, as selfless as it is, there is one thing that they get out of it, because otherwise I wouldn't get it, and that's that warm fuzzy feeling inside. That feeling that you've actually helped someone out. And I do think
there's nothing said for it.
It's an innate thing. It's like a tribal thing. And I think, unfortunately, in the world that we live in, although there's more people in this world right now, we're kind of more secluded than we ever have been. I think we are actually, we're like pack animals. We do like to help each other out. So of course I like to help people out. So when I saw, I think it was through Gary Quigley. I saw his post, because I've spoken to him a few times, and I saw his post And he said about what he was doing with you. And so I looked into it, and I was like, wow, yeah, I want to get involved in that. If I can help people out, it's not about, making money. It's literally, if I can help someone out of a sticky situation, guide them through that, then fantastic, and in what I do, because I'm sourcing properties, in the past, if someone was in a position where they're having their house repossessed, sometimes before I had the knowledge, before you taught me, I wouldn't have known what to do. So I would have had to say, they might have seen a little glimmer of hope. And unfortunately, I've had to say, I'm really sorry, but
you can't
help you, But now you've given me the tools to be able to help them out, which is
that's great. Good. And and as you say, you talked about money. This isn't about being, I keep using this phrase, Mother Teresa. We don't have to be giving away all profit on all opportunities, and we don't have to be saying, oh, we can't do some deals. In actual fact, I want guys to go out and do mega deals. I want you to go out and do as many bloody deals as you can. But as you say, it's about bringing the right tools to the table so that we genuinely help people at the worst possible time in their lives. Because we actually have the tools that you've learned by your own experience. You've learned some of these tools. You may not have paid for that, but you've paid for that learning in just experience itself, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll just ask you real quick then about the training. You've done the training. You've got we're our official supporters are right there doing their thing. What did you think about the training?
The training was, it was really good. It was really informative. It wasn't too long. It wasn't like hours and hours. They were quite short, bite-sized videos, but packed full of information. I think it was great. I can't really see how you could have really improved it. I think it was. It was really well put together. Really well.
And why should anybody join? Clearly. I'm interested in more people coming and joining what we're doing as a national network and creating more people across the country that can do what we do. Some people might think, well, if there's everybody out there doing this, then we'll all be in competition with one another, which, as we know, is rubbish. But if some people are on the fence thinking, I'm not really sure what this is for me, why do you think they should join? Why do you think they should support what we're doing?
Well, I think that there's more people out there that are going through this than what we realise. Obviously, they're not going to be shouting from the rooftops about this. So I think the more people that we bring on board, teach these tools to, and can help people that are in some real dire situations. I mean, it's really horrible, to be in. Imagine having that huge debt, people breathing out, letters dropping on your mat, and I've suffered with a bit of depression myself, and I know that it's horrible. It's a horrible place to be. It's a dark, lonely place. So the more people that we can get on board to help people in those situations, because you do need, when you're in that situation, you can't think clearly. You can't, you've got no clarity, and what you really need is just someone just to hold your hand and point the way, and so we need, the more people we can get on board to help those people out, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So if you are thinking about it, I would say just do it. Don't think about it, get involved.
Thanks, Jim. So Jim, where can people get you? Because obviously we want people to know you're part of Repossession Rescue Network. We also want people to know what you're doing as a sourcer, as a property professional, what you can do for investors who are looking to find someone who genuinely knows what they're talking about. Where can they get you? Shout out here about your contact details, and obviously we'll put contact details with this interview so you guys can follow it. Where can they get you, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, the best place is probably Facebook, just Jim Jackson on Facebook, and LinkedIn, same again. My email address is jim@jacksoninvest.co.uk. They're probably the best avenues. That's what I would suggest.
Great stuff. So, as I say, Jim, thank you so much for your little spotlight interview with us. I am absolutely thrilled that you came on board as one of our foundation supporters. It's been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to the next 12 months. We have so much to do. We're planning a lot more. We're actually planning some in-person events as well, which is going to be brilliant. And I'm going to be bringing guys on board to talk about financing deals. later on down the line. So thanks, Jim. And to say, anybody who wants to get hold of Jim, they absolutely need to follow the link here so that you can check out Jim's website and his social media profiles. Jim, you will have this on the on our site as well, so we'll do a shout out there as well. Thank you very much.
Well, can I just say before we sign off, can I just say that thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Honestly, you are an amazing person. I think this is great, and I hope it really gets to where we hope it gets to. So
yeah, well, as we say, the power of one, Jim. All we need is one more person to join us for every time that we put out one of our videos or whatever. If we hit 5,000, I will be thrilled. We hit 5,000 members, we will completely transform.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. As we spread the word, it will happen, I'm sure.
Fabulous.
Brilliant.
Jim, thank you so much, my darling. I will speak to you soon. It's brilliant to have you on board. See you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.